sermon series, Scary, Gross, and Weird Stories from the Bible. Today's story is pretty cool, and some of you might believe in ghosts, some of you might not believe in ghosts, and this is not a ghost story, okay? But it makes you wonder about the power of God and about the power of Jesus, because he might just walk through walls in this story. We're going to look at John 20, verses 19 through 31. Hear now the reading of God's holy word. That Sunday evening, the disciples were meeting behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. Suddenly, Jesus was standing there among them. "Peace be with you," he said. As he spoke, he showed them the wounds in his hand and in his side. They were filled with joy when they saw the Lord. Again he said, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you." Then he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone's sins, they are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." One of the 12 disciples, Thomas, nicknamed Twin, was not with the others when Jesus came. They told him, "We've seen the Lord." But he replied, "I won't believe it unless I see the nail wounds in his hands and put my fingers into them and place my hand into the wound in his side." 8 days later, the disciples were gathered together again. And this time Thomas was with them. The doors were locked, but suddenly, as before, Jesus was standing among them. "Peace be with you," he said. And then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Put your hand into the wound in my side. Don't be faithless any longer. Believe." "My Lord and my God," Thomas exclaimed. Then Jesus told him, "You believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who believe without seeing me." The disciples saw Jesus doing many other miraculous signs, in addition to the ones recorded in this book. But these are written so that you may continue to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing in him you will have life by the power of his name. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
So here the disciples are gathered together after Jesus had been crucified, and then he rose again. Jesus beforehand had told the disciples, "Go back to Jerusalem and stay there until you receive my sign." So here they were, just seeing what had happened to Jesus. They locked themselves in this room. Some believe it was the actual upper room that they gathered in for the Last Supper that night. So they locked themselves in this room, waiting for a sign. Now, why Thomas wasn't there, I have no idea. He must have been out, had some other busy things to do. But Jesus just poof is all of a sudden right there. Whoa. Okay, locked doors. Disciples gathered together in fear of what would happen to them because of what the Jewish leaders just did to Jesus. And next thing they know, Jesus is standing right there with them. And just to prove that he's not a ghost, he says, "Hey, look, check these out. Look at the wounds and the holes in my hands and the wound in my side. Look." And they saw and they believed. And they were so excited that Jesus had come to see them. And he breathed on them and he said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you." He's giving them the mission. He's sending them out into the world. He's giving them a purpose to get out of the locked doors and to go out into the world and to spread the good news about Jesus. To spread the good news about what he has done. And he gives them the power of the Holy Spirit to do it. Man, Thomas missed out, didn't he? He missed out. Well, 8 days later, about a week goes by, and Thomas must have decided, "You know what, I'm not going to miss this again." So they're gathered in the same place, and the disciples are describing what happened last time, that Jesus showed up and how they were so excited to see him. And the next thing you know, there they are behind locked doors again, but Jesus is just suddenly before them. Just suddenly before them. And he goes right to Thomas. And he says, "Thomas, put your fingers in my hands. Feel my side." And he says, "My Lord, my God." understood what he had missed. He understood what it meant to believe that Jesus was God's Son. At that very moment, we often refer to Thomas as Doubting Thomas, don't we? Because he doubted that Jesus actually came to the disciples when he wasn't there. He didn't believe it. He had to see it with his own eyes. He had to touch it with his own hands. Do you guys understand that? How many times have you been told something and you said, well, I'm going to have to see that to believe that? I mean, this is the show me state, right? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of our thing. Jesus said, you believe because you see. Blessed are those who believe and do not see. Interesting idea. Believe and not see. Well, I might suggest to you that we are those people who believe but have not seen. I don't know about you, but I have not had an experience where Jesus is just suddenly before me. Now, that would be cool, but it has not happened. I can see the workings of Jesus in other people's lives. I can see Jesus working through me even sometimes. But I have not seen his physical presence before me. I've not been able to touch his hands. I've not been able to touch his side. I've not been able to kiss his cheek. But I believe. I believe that he is God's Son. I believe that he can walk through walls if he wants to. I believe that he can bring people back from the dead. I believe that he can cure incurable diseases. I believe that he can save me from my sins. I believe that he can save me so much from my sins that one day I'm going to live with him in heaven. I believe these things. Not because I have seen them, but because someone has told me about them. And I've made it a choice in my life to believe these things. I've made it a choice in my life to believe these things. Jesus is about ready to send out his disciples. He actually says he's sending them out just like God sent him. Behind locked doors, there they are. And now they're being sent out. I think our mission as a church is to gather together in this place to worship God and to show our appreciation for him in our lives and to build one another up and to be a part of each other's lives. It's important for us to gather in this place. But let's not lock ourselves in. Let's not lock the doors fear of what might happen when we go out there. I've heard people say that when they're in church or when they're in a place where they feel like God is truly present, that everything is wonderful and everything is good and that their life is so much better when they're in this place. But as soon as they leave, they know what's out there. They feel like Satan's waiting for them in the parking lot. And they think that the devil's going to attack them everywhere they go and things in their life are going to happen to them and they're not going to be able to handle it because they're not in this place. Well, I will tell you that God goes everywhere we go, that Jesus walks with us, that Jesus is present in our life, and even though we can't see or touch him, he is there with us. He promises us that he will never leave us, nor forsake us. He will never forget about us. He will always love us. He will always be present in our lives. Whether we're in locked doors or whether we blow the doors off the place, he's going to be there. He's going to be there. How awesome is that? How awesome is that? So is this story weird? Yeah. Is it scary? Sure, to have someone just suddenly before you. That would probably make you go, whoa, where'd you come from? Sometimes scary and weird is what it takes to get our attention. Sometimes we have to realize the scary world outside is full of a lot of good. It's full of a lot of good. And it's full of a lot of people who are hurting and lost and broken and worn out and tired, who just need someone in their lives to give them a little joy, who just need someone in their lives to give them a little hope, who just need someone in their lives to be that light. We can be that light this day. We can be an extension of God's love this day. So let's use the scary and the weird. Let's use those things to fuel us, to fire us up about not hiding in one place, but going out as Jesus has sent us, because he has breathed his breath on us as well. We receive the Holy Spirit here in this place. We receive the Holy Spirit at our baptism. We receive the Holy Spirit. He is within us. He is within us. So let's not box him in. Let's blow the doors off and let him free. Because when we do that, we'll start to see that this scary world that we think is outside waiting for us isn't that scary. Because there's nothing that we cannot do without Jesus. Nothing. So let's believe that today. Let's believe that not just in our minds, but in our hearts and in our souls. Will you believe with me today?